Hello everyone and welcome to the next part of this series. Today, before we jump into actually retopologizing our element, I want to talk about this tool. You guys know that Blender works under this sort of like community-driven system where there's a lot of things that you can buy, download, or use to generate easier results for yourself by going into add-ons and plugins. Well, this page right here, in case you are new to it, it's called Blender Market. It's an excellent place where you can buy, as the name implies, a lot of things for Blender, such as plugins, add-ons, textures, HDRIs, scenes. Like there's so many things. And one of the tools that we're going to be using today, and we're going to be using for pretty much the whole chapter, is this one right here called Retopoflow 3 by Orange Turbine. Retopoflow 3, it's an excellent tool to retopologize. I actually use this quite a bit, even when I'm doing things for Maya. Like I just jump to Blender and do retopology because it's so easy to use, and it's a really good tool. Several years ago, there was another one called Topogun that was system independent, so you could use this one for a lot of different elements, such as ZBrush, Maya, Blender, and all that stuff. However, they dropped support again several years ago. They mentioned that Topogun 3 was coming, but there hasn't been any news, at least at the time of this recording. So I'm not holding my fate on them coming back anytime soon. And we have a lot of new tools on the market, such as Retopoflow 3, that do a great job as well with retopology. Now, don't be scared about the price right here. I know $86 is a lot of money, especially considering that Blender is completely free. However, if you're going to be using this for commercial use later on for like a movie, a game, a film or something, I strongly recommend that you do get a license to be out of any like legal issues. And for us right now, it's actually not that much of a problem because down here, if you go into the description, that's why it's important to read the tiny letters, you're going to see that Retopoflow is free for students. You are a student, I'm a teacher, so I'm going to be teaching you Retopoflow, and hopefully we don't get into any issues. So if you like to use Retopoflow for educational purposes, you can download it for free from our GitHub. So let's go right here. And if we go down here into the GitHub, you're going to see that we have this option that says, if you're going to be using Retopoflow for educational purposes, again, as long as it's not commercial, as long as you're not doing like a video game or like a film or something, you're free to download it here from the release page. Strongly recommend that you support the artists that make this tool available because it's really good. You're going to download this zip file right here, and once you have the zip file inside of Blender, you're going to go to Edit, Preferences, Add-ons, and you're going to install that zip file. You don't need to uncompress it. It will install itself normally. It has all of the instructions in there. So you just go, for instance, here to Downloads, grab Retopoflow, and install the add-on. Once you've installed the add-on, you're going to go here, you're going to look for it, Retopoflow, and you're going to activate it. And once you have activated it, you're going to see this thing right here, Retopoflow. So the one thing that I don't like about Retopoflow, or it's not that I don't like, it's just it's part of the process. Right now you can see that I have my screencast activated so you guys can see the shortcuts. But as soon as I launch Retopoflow, this thing is going to disappear because it pretty much like steals the Blender interface so that we can use the tools that Retopoflow has, and that like ignores or kind of like overwrites whatever other like things we might have on our element. So let's say, for instance, that we want to do the retopology for this like hammer shape right here, which, by the way, something that we're going to be doing very soon is we're going to be cleaning the elements. So this one, for instance, I'm going to call hammer_high. Very important that we call this high because that way we're going to know that this is a high poly. So if we grab the hammer, for instance, and we go to Retopoflow, we can select this option called Add Active, which will launch a Retopoflow, and it will allow me to work on this element. However, I'm gonna get a couple of warnings. For instance, right now, if I select this one and say Add Active, Retopoflow might give me a little warning saying, hey, this object is over 1 million triangles, and that could cause some issues. So as we saw before, one of the things that we could do to minimize the problems that we have right here is to decimate this element a little bit. So I'm gonna go to the modifiers over here. I'm gonna add a new modifier, and this is gonna be, of course, a decimate modifier right here. And I'm just going to decimate this to, let's say, 0.3 of whatever it has. I'm going to hit enter and pause the video real quick because remember, this really takes some toll on the system. And there we go. So as you can see, the number of triangles has been heavily reduced to 333,000 triangles, which is a lot better. And we pretty much keep this the exact same detail. So no need to worry about that. One more thing, remember that it's important that once we're happy with the decimation and we're sure that we're not going to be doing anything else, we can apply this so that we permanently have this new amount of triangles. Another important thing is I strongly recommend that you save this as another like a file. So I'm going to give this a 7 so that if I need to go back to the high poly element, I can go back to it without overwriting any files. So again, I'm going to pause the video real quick and just apply this so that we can have the final topology. Very well. So the element has been applied. Therefore, now if I go to Retopoflow and I say add active, I should have a like an easier time working with this element right here. So as you can see, the whole thing gets replaced. Fortunately, I did not lose the little navigation here, but I don't have access to it anymore. So if I press the letter N, I don't have access to the view. So if you're gonna be using this, make sure to use it before we go there. So yeah, this is Retopoflow. Now, the cool thing about Retopoflow is that the high poly has now become an active surface inside of the system, and any of the tools that we use right here will go on top of the element so that we can capture like the essence of this thing in the best possible way. So for instance, the easiest one to show right now is the polypen tool. If I go to polypen and I press Control, I'm gonna add one little point right there. And then if I drag and click, I'm going to add another one. And once I finish 4 points, I'm going to get a square. And look at how that square perfectly hugs the surface of the element right there. So the way this works is we'll just continue to draw more squares around the main like facets of this element. And once we want to go over here, for instance, we can again draw more squares, just start clicking on the different points. And this is going to create the sort of like element that we want. Look at that. Even a triangle right there. I'm going to use the tweak one, for instance, and I can move this triangle down so that we can really hug the surface. And the main goal that we're going to have as we learn these tools and as we do our retopology is to capture the silhouette of the object as close as possible. It's impossible to capture it perfectly, right? But as we saw on with the die, as long as we are really close to the surface, once we bake all of these details, we're going to be able to catch everything. So for instance, over here, you can see that we have a lot of like grunginess and stuff. This doesn't mean that we need to add like a ridiculous amount of polygons on this area to make this work. There's again, other ways to do it. Now, the reason why this tool is so powerful is because it allows us to save quite a bit of time. For instance, I know that this thing is pretty much like a cube, right? So as long as I do the retopology like a cube, I should be good. And one of the things I can do, for instance, is polystrips. I can just click polystrips, press Control, click and drag down here, and this will create, in this case, 6 polystrips right there. Look at that. Super fast. Again, this is an excellent way to just like cover a lot of area. And then if I do, for instance, let's do another one, Control, and just draw over here, it's going to be 7, and I can close that, or I can press Shift and middle mouse, just like scroll, and I can get this to 6. And we can move these guys to accommodate them or get them closer to the position that we want. At any point, I can go to tweak mode. This is like a brush, and I can just like move the points. So for instance, move that point, just bring those back into position. And eventually, we could even go, for instance, to, again, the polypen, grab one edge, grab the other, and just F, or just, in this case, it's not F, it's, there's an option to fill. It's, what is it? Or we can use it's not the loops, the patch tool. There we go, it's the patch tool. So just click, and just hit enter, and that adds the element. Or we can select like 4 of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like this, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Just hit enter, and there we go. We've successfully created the loop that bridges everything together. So as you can see, it's very easy to just start building up this string wrap that's going to go around the object to generate a really clean topology that's going to make the UV section easier and the texturing section easier. Once we're happy, or if we are happy with this result and we want to go back and do other sort of things, we can just press tab. This is going to exit Retopoflow, as you can see right here. And look at this. This object right here is like any other polygonal object that we have inside of a Blender, with the only difference that this object is now a low poly version of the surface of this thing. How do we get back to Retopoflow? A very common mistake is people will just go back here and just click at active again. That's not how you do it. If you want to keep working, because Retopoflow remembers that this is the active element right now. So if you want to keep on working on this like patch of polygons right now, we go to edit mode first, and then here on Retopoflow, we just say start Retopo. And what this will do is it will again launch the Retopoflow interface, and we're going to be ready to go. This thing right here, again, the help system is really good. I'm going to disable it. I don't want to be seeing it every single time that we do it, but I strongly recommend that you go into the online docs. We are going to be covering several of the tools throughout this process, but there's always like little things that I forget about, and there's little tips and tricks that you can find on the documentation as well. So make sure to go to the online docs to study a little bit more on how this plugin works. And yeah, that's pretty much it. So with this said, my friends, we're now ready to jump onto the actual retopology of the process. process or of the whole axe. So I'm going to go out of the Retopoflow. I'm going to delete this element. We don't need it right now. And as I mentioned before, we are ready to do some retopology. Before we do that, though, we're going to have one final video where we're going to be talking about the cleanup process, because we definitely need to prepare all of these elements for a good cleanup process. So hang on tight, and I'll see you back on the next one. Bye-bye.